I'm Danny, and this is the Scream Princess podcast. Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the Scream Princess podcast. And this is the most guests I've ever had on at once, which is super, super exciting. So, I have got the team, or part of the team, behind the up and coming horror film Fairy Dust, which we have heard about in some previous podcasts. We had Aviana Snow on. She mentioned it. She's one of the cast members. We've had Andy Edwards on last week and he was producing. So I'm here today to introduce you to Chad Michael Ward, who is the writer, director, kind of creator of the movie, and two of his cast members, Joss Carter and Annabella Rich. How are you all
Oh,
doing?
Good, good. Thank you for having us.
very
Thank
good,
you
thank
for coming on and giving me an hour of your Sunday. I know that Sundays are kind of much needed rest time. And
Never,
also,
never.
and also your chance to do all your pre-production stuff for the upcoming film. So I'm stealing your time.
No rest for the
So,
wicked, Danny. No rest for the wicked.
well, this is
Yeah.
true. This is true. And when you're in the horror game, people pretty much expect that we're all pretty wicked. So there you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I do always say though, everyone I've met in horror has been so nice. It's like literally the opposite of what you expect, but
Yes,
yeah.
completely agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We might look scary, but we're not.
Fabulously scary.
Fabulously scary. So I'm going to start with Chad because this is your
Yes,
baby. And
it
Andy
is.
had mentioned to me that he had seen you'd done some mask designs. I don't know whether it was in lockdown or but you were creating these kind of weird, wonderful, fabulous, creative pieces, and he saw them and kind of contacted you through that. So do you want to kind of tell me about that, really?
Yeah, it really was kind of an interesting series of events that led to this. Was during lockdown that I before film I was a photographer and I still am.
Hmm.
Uh, but to photograph, you need people, and when during lockdown, we couldn't bring people over to shoot, so it was
Yeah.
just my partner Sophie and I in the studio taking pictures, horror stuff, fantasy
Hmm.
stuff, having fun with that. But we're like, wouldn't it be great if we could do other characters? And right around that time, she had started doing paper mache stuff. And I said, well, that looks interesting. Maybe you could show me how to do that. So she taught me how to do some paper mache. So I started making some weird masks and photographed it in the studio during lockdown. And then that didn't become enough. I was like, well, what if we took it out into the forest and shot video and did weird things there? So we snuck out during lockdown into the forest early in the morning at sunrise and shot some video footage and edited it together into a trailer. And it turned out really good for not having a crew or a plan, really.
Yeah.
And so I posted the trailer to the internet and was like, hey, here's this thing we did. And this should be a movie. Somebody should make this a movie.
Uh-huh.
And Andy wrote to me and said, well, is it a movie? Do you have a script? I said, no, but I could write one. And he's like, yes, please write one. Let's make this movie. And here we are just over a year later. We have a
Right.
script, we have a cast, we have Andy,
Yeah.
and we're ready to make this film.
Amazing. So you say you were off to the forest. Now I can see that you've got an American accent, but I
Yeah.
think you're not based in the States anymore.
No, I'm
No.
currently in northern Sweden, but I am
Okay.
originally from Los Angeles.
All right.
Uh, but during lockdown, I was actually in a place, Cleveland, Ohio, which has a ton of forests around.
Okay.
That's all the initial fairy dust stuff was shot in Cleveland, Ohio, of all places.
Amazing. But then that, do you feel like, because obviously being a Brit, like I remember going camping like stateside and in Canada when I was a kid, like with my uncles and stuff, and the forest, you've got to be aware of bears and things. I feel like that's pretty extreme. Like we don't have anything here that can, eat us. Did you
Right,
feel
right.
like when you were like wandering around the forest, just you two and your masks, like, is it scary?
No, I mean, other people are scary. We have a couple of potential serial killer encounters on the trail, but
Yeah.
other than that, no, we'd see lots of deer. You that early in the morning as the sun is coming up, you see stuff like that, but we never ran into bears or wolves or
Okay. I can cope with deer.
anything weird and scary.
Amazing. And Joss, you've worked with Andy before on
Yes, you have.
Rumpelstiltskin. So what
Yes.
was your, how did you end up doing that film? And I only know what he's really told me, and he said you do a lot of the kind of characters that need a lot of movement. And I was kind of thinking, who's the guy who played Gollum? I was thinking, is that
Yeah,
your kind of
yeah, Andy Serkis.
intro
Yeah.
behind? That's it,
So
Andy Serkis.
my journey in training began well over 20 years now. I studied at a conservatoire called the Northern School of Contemporary Dance in the UK.
Mhm.
So I basically trained in the kind of fundamental, like foundation, classical contemporary techniques of
Right.
dance and then classical ballet. And then through having my career as a contemporary dancer and making my own work in live art and
Mhm.
performance art, it's quite visceral and very dark and unsettling. I had the opportunity to work on The Mummy, the Tom Cruise film, The Mummy, about 10 years ago. That was my first kind of introduction into the creature performance world. And then it's just been a slow trajectory from there, really. And now it's strange to say that I've kind of not let the contemporary dance world go. It's still ingrained in my blood, as it say, my bones, and I've got the scars and the injuries to prove it. But yeah, it's taken me on a crazy journey now to predominantly focus it as a creature actor, creature performer, special action stunts. And yeah, just going from The Mummy to then working on a TV series called Curfew, to then working on Wicked recently, Rumpelstiltskin, of course, which was thanks to Andy.
Mhm.
Um, Andy gave me this huge opportunity to play this leading role.
Yeah.
So yeah, Andy was recommended to me by a prosthetics SFX artist called Dan Martin. So I worked with Dan Martin on Tarot. I played the devil. And yeah, it was just Andy. Andy was speaking to Dan one evening, I think at Fright Fest,
Right.
and asked Dan if he knew anyone that would fit Rumpelstiltskin. And then, thankfully, praise to Dan, who recommended my name. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, I got on board. And then was managed to be associate producer on the film as well. I did a bit of stunt coordination on that as well. So, yeah, it's been a wild journey, but these days it's just focus creature, 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 creature.
Yeah.
It's great.
Must be so much fun. And I always think, when you get a costume, I mean, I've done costume where, it's just with hair and things that make you look really different. I've never done kind of
Yeah.
full prosthetic on your face. But when you completely don't look yourself at all, it really makes it so much easier to kind of be somebody else as an actor.
Yeah, it's instantaneously transformation.
Yeah.
There's one thing I think the hardest thing I found within the development of Rumpelstiltskin, and how it's the same with Chad's script as well. It just brings the imagination to life.
Mhm.
There's only so much you can do, like rehearsing by yourself and developing this character in the space in a
Mhm.
dry studio. But and obviously you can find these things, but it's only really until you spend the hours in prosthetics and then it
Yeah.
all comes together.
Yeah.
Um,
So you must be
yeah,
very patient then to have all the prosthetics done because it
Yeah,
takes
I mean,
a long time.
Rumpelstiltskin was like 4 hours a day. We shot it in 10 days in total. It was 4 hours a day. There was one day that was 6 hours. That was the full kind of full
Wow.
makeup, the transformation, the full scene dance around the fire. But yeah, I've been in 6 hours plus.
Yeah. And how long does it take to remove?
Depends what kind of materials and what kind of application is really. The devil, for example, and so basically the devil was like a cow with the horns,
Mm.
and then me in a very tight, unforgiving jockstrap thong, and then the rest. There was some bits of prosthetics and as on the back and the arms and the chest and the butt,
Right.
but the most of it was just Pax body paint. So it's essentially acrylic paint mixed
Right.
with Prosaid
Hmm.
special glue, and it doesn't come off. So like you'd spend 6 hours in the
Alcohol.
makeup before the day would begin, and then you'd spend 12 hours working,
Yeah.
and then you have to spend 2 hours plus
Yeah.
getting it off.
And you always find it. I mean, you just spend 2 hours taking it off with all the alcohol solution, but you'll always
Yeah,
find it. I always find if I've been body painted or something, I'll like suddenly be doing something on a shoot and I'll be like, oh, I've got a green armpit or something. Like, so you
yeah,
always find a bit somewhere that's like
yeah,
lingered or behind
always.
your ear.
Yeah. Then we had to get Will, the Monster Effects, who did the prosthetics for Rumpelstiltskin. He basically got into the bath with me one night and just scrubbed me.
Yeah, been there. I've been there. I've been scrubbed. And Annabella, we have met. We have met. And I've been trying to get you on here, but you've been busy off kind of producing and filming your own projects. So it's been hard to kind
Yeah,
of get you on here. But we met years ago on Eating Miss Campbell.
did. I'm trying to, I think that was the first
I
time we
think
met.
that was, yeah, that's definitely where we met. We were away somewhere in Yorkshire filming, and
Yeah.
you were like, I'd obviously worked with the company before on the kind of the first film, and I'd come back to reprise my character, and you'd kind of come in at this really like cute but annoying character, like with this like squeaky little voice, and it was like she was, I mean, that was her purpose, wasn't it? But you played her so well. I was just literally
She was
mesmerized by
mental. I
your
loved it.
performance. I thought you were great, but yeah, that's literally where we met
It was
many
amazing to
years
see
ago.
you on it as well, because I think we were such different ends of the spectrum. You were this very
Yeah,
stern
yeah,
thingy, and I was
it's bad.
mental on the side. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and then what else have we done together? I feel like we don't often get on set together. We did in that one, we had a scene. But I
Yeah.
feel like we're in loads of things together. We never really get to work with each other.
We don't ever have like scenes together, but we're in the
No,
same
why is
studio. We
that?
go to festivals. I don't
I feel like
know.
maybe they just think, oh no, they won't stop talking. They'll cause too much trouble. It will be difficult to get
We'd
them
be
to work.
fantastic together. Anyone who thinks that's wrong.
Get it wrong. I
Just need to make
know.
it happen now.
Yeah, I think like the video shop films we've both been in and
Yeah.
yeah, various things. And then I missed you this year because you weren't at Horror on Sea and you weren't at Romford because you were busy
Pulling
filming.
my hair out on this one.
Yeah, so like I feel like I did see you though in something which really disturbed me. And
Bullet point.
it was no, it's one with the baby. Was it called Bullet Point? It was
A boiling point, yeah.
Phil
I think.
Rogers' piece for, was it Horoscopes? And
Yeah.
you played this psycho that kills her baby. And I was just like, when you're watching it, and most of the film was quite light, and then that was just so dark, and I was just like, I now worry that about the people that wrote it, like Phil, and then I worried about you.
Much fun to do. Honestly, I had so much fun with them on this set, especially where you're doing these really intense scenes, you're sobbing and everything, and then you come out like, hey, was that good? Should we go
Yeah,
again?
you
Like,
were
worse?
incredible. I mean, I don't like children, but I draw the line at boiling them.
Yeah, that was actually a really so I haven't actually seen it yet. I'm waiting to see it at one of the kind of next premieres for it.
Ah,
But I think there's going to be an extended version of it coming out,
is
so I'm
there?
hoping
Oh
to
wow.
see that one of it. But no, those shots were so fun. Like even the boiling thing, got this boiling pot there, and it's like, okay, like let's angle it down, let's make it look a bit real, do a little wibble wobble. Yeah, and I can't remember his name, but my acting partner in it, oh, he was fantastic. I felt so bad when he's sobbing in my face, and I'm there like, yes,
No, it was incredible because I am used to seeing you play kind of cutesy and bubbly, and that was literally the opposite. So you've got a
it goes
very kind
hand
of
in hand, like
broad
cutesy
range.
bubbly, and then like psycho.
Well,
Like,
for some
maybe.
people, that's true. But how did you? Obviously, you came from acting. I don't. I feel like you've kind of progressed very quickly into now like making your own movie, which is incredible to watch. So how did that happen? How did you decide, right, this is what I'm going to do now?
Oh gosh, you know what? About a year ago, I was having the worst time at my old job. I think I was about to have quite big surgery, and I
Mhm.
was like, "What am I doing?" I was like, "I'm so unhappy." I was like, "I'm happy working for this business. I'm cramming acting into every second. I'm not having a moment." I was being fobbed off by doctors, and I was like, I was in so much pain. Like on the Rumpelstiltskin shoot, I just came down because I was like, "Yeah, I'll come down. Andy's a friend. I'll come
Yeah.
help for like a day or two." But I don't think anyone realizes, but I was on like naproxen, tramadol. I had surgery booked in for 7 days
Oh,
later.
no.
Um, yeah, so I was like, cool, all of this, and I was like, it's fine. So I went into that, came out of it, and I was like, oh, life is just too short. Because people were chucking around words like cancer, they were chucking around all these different things, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, life is too short for me to be unhappy in my job, unhappy with everything. So I quit my job. I went to Cannes Film Festival, I think like a week later. I booked a last minute flight, went over, had a load of fun, came back and I was like, yeah, you know what? I've got this script in the bag. Like, let's work on it. Let's just make it happen. So it's just been a extreme driving force since then. I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? I can't wait for stuff to come to me. I can do it. I can make it. It's been stressful. Don't get me wrong. It's been very stressful. I think Chad
Mm.
will know fully well. It's so stressful making a film, especially
Yeah.
when you're missing budget. But it and I think it was honestly the best thing that could have
Yeah.
happened to me because I've now found out like I love acting. I love it so, so much. But I also love directing and I love
Mhm.
writing and I'm just finding my way now with this and
Yeah.
yeah, no.
And you can do it all. I love that.
Yeah.
I love like, because you do well, I think we only live once. We find out one day, won't we? But like, let's like go along with that we only live once and it's too short to wait to do things. Like if you want to do something, go do it. Work out how to do it. Like I remember making a movie and I was so green. I acted in a few, I had no clue, and I had this script I'd written and someone like willing to fund it, but said, oh, can you have a budget with me by Monday? And I was like, and this is like Saturday, and I'm thinking, I don't know how to do a budget, but I was like, yeah, of course I can. And then I'm like, Google, how do I do a budget? Did it, like, and you just kind of do it. And I literally winged it, and I think I still wing it. I have no clue what I'm doing most of the time, but you know what?
Yes.
Like, you find people who can help you, you find a good team, and you just kind of you work it out, and it works in the end. And then afterwards, you think, how did I do that? Like now, I think, how did I do that then? Because I was so young,
Yeah.
and and you just do, and it's great. I
I
love
think
it.
that's it. Like if you don't muddle through and just kind of put everything into it.
Yeah,
Because there were so many points on our shoot where it was like, oh God, this isn't quite right. And it was like a sit down for 10 minutes and go, how do we go
yeah,
through this? And we awesome, right. This is how we're powering through it. I think that's like the brilliant thing with like creatives and I guess like being creative, the only way you get through is kind of by improvising to a degree and not
yeah.
going, everything's ruined. I don't know how to do it. I'm not going to
Mhm.
bother just by going, I don't know how to do this, but I'm going to give it everything. I'm going to have a bit of a Google and I'm also
Yeah,
going to ask people who probably do know how to do it.
yeah. Like
So
I dread thinking like how I would have done any of it if Google didn't exist. Like
yes,
that would have been a whole different story, really. But and you have Chris alongside you, so you've got like your partner in crime.
that is quite beneficial. We live together. So, oh my goodness, this poor boy, like our entire last 8 months have been like finish work. Okay, 5 more hours on our work. And it's like, okay, bed.
I still feel
So,
responsible for this, by the way, because I saw the two of them at a festival ages ago, and they got on so well, and I was like, are you two dating? She was like, no. And they're like, no, what are you on about? We're just friends. And then like literally a week later she rings, texts me, she's like, oh my God, like you were totally right. No, we're totally dating. Like you were totally right. So I'm saying that I planted the seed in your head that made you think, oh, you know what, this could be it.
I totally agree. So, funny story. We both really liked each other. And we were both like, no, they would never like me back. Oh God, like I'm not going to ruin this friendship. And then we got to a point, I think we had done because we were setting up our business together as friends. And we were driving around in the car going to the next place to sort some meetings out. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I was like, you can take some time away from me or whatever you want. I was like, but I need like a 3 month break from this because like I think I'm in love with you. And he went silent. I mean,
That's so
silent.
brave. I would
And then
never
he
be
pulled
able to
over the
say that.
car. And I was like, okay, like I've ruined a friendship and a partnership. And he's like, oh my God, I've been in love with you for like the last 5 years. So
Oh, Chris.
it worked out really nice 2.5 years
Sweetheart.
later.
Oh, I would say call me Cilla Black, but somebody I was speaking to yesterday said that she wasn't very nice when they worked with her, so don't call me that.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
Well,
apparently she was an absolute diva, but who knew?
I know what that
So,
is.
Chad, you had a background in music videos, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's where it all started for me. I
Okay, how did that come about?
so before I moved to Los Angeles, probably a year before, I was invited down to do some set photography for a music video for Static X
Hmm.
for their Queen of the Damned song, Cold. And I'd never been on a set before, never done anything like this. And it was on the Universal Studios back lot near the Psycho House, and we had vampires on rigs flying through the air and giant crew, and it was just this madhouse of stuff.
Hmm.
And I immediately went to the director. I said, "How do I get to do your job?" And he's like, "No, no, no, you don't want my job." I know this is the coolest thing I've ever done in my
Uh-huh.
life. Can we do this? And it took a few years, and eventually I found my way into the industry and started shooting music videos. My second music video ended up working with Slash and Billy Idol, which is as an '80s hard rock kid, like was
Yeah.
insane. You doing? Yeah, and that. was basically my introduction into the film industry, is just doing that and eventually meeting enough people going, oh, we like your music videos. You should do film. And I was like, oh,
Mm.
I don't know the first thing about it. And they're like, oh, no, no, you do, you do.
Well,
And
you do because the music video tells a story, so you've got that kind of
yeah,
narrative, and
yes.
and I guess the song is the script that you're working
Yeah,
with. So
exactly. Exactly. The song tells a story, the original story, and then you take that song and you turn it into something visual,
yeah.
and it's a chance for all your experimentation, different trying out different things. Like it's a great playground to go and really see what you as a filmmaker can do.
Yeah, and the
Um,
thing is, with the music video being much shorter and each one
mhm.
being different, you get to do so many different things.
So many different ways of
Yeah.
doing things. Yeah, absolutely.
Did you go to any crazy rock star parties?
I mean, it's LA, of course.
Have you got any stories that you're allowed to tell, or are they all very secret? Because
I
you
am
get people in
sworn
trouble.
to
Sworn to
secrecy, definitely.
secrecy. Sworn to
I've seen some
secrecy.
stuff. I've seen some stuff.
I bet you have. And just so who would you say your kind of influences have been throughout, your journey? Like whether it's like
Mm.
filmmakers or actors.
Music has had a big part to play. Yeah, I grew up. I mean, yeah, I grew up listening to like the nastiest fucking death black metal, thrash metal you can ever imagine. And I think yeah, that got even weirder and more conceptual and contemporary when I started my kind of like my introduction to kind of experimental contemporary music. So yeah, the imagery and the vibe, the energy that metal music brings. That's been a huge part to play. I think it's just always been. I grew up in the countryside, where Tolkien, so essentially the Shire where Tolkien was inspired to write Lord of the Rings. So again, Lord of the Rings has always been an
Where are you
influence as well.
from?
South Shropshire.
Ah, okay. I
So
don't
in between,
detect an accent.
yeah. So I've got a bit of a Midlands twang because I went to Kidderminster College.
Ah,
So
okay.
I studied with a load of people, a load of guys from the Black Country, West Midlands. But then I'm also like the Herefordshire, Ludlow, Worcestershire kind of side as well. So it's
Okay.
yeah, I just grew up in the rolling hills. So again, yeah, Mother Nature's been a huge influence. The freedom of just yeah, just climbing trees and submersing myself in the
Hmm.
wilderness. That's been a huge kind of
You both have that similarity then, the two of you boys, like with like
mm,
being outside and,
yeah,
being inspired
yeah.
by
And also just yeah,
landscape.
just the landscapes and how the nature changes from the seasonal and the rot and decay of autumn to winter. I mean,
Mm.
it's just for me those are my perfect kind of. The sun's too hot for me. I'd much prefer to be in the cold, horrible, wet.
Which then that kind of goes hand in hand with the horror. I
Yes,
think. Like
yeah,
I always feel like if I'm writing something horror, I can't do it on a sunny day or in like bright sunlight. It has to either be on an
yeah,
evening when it's dark or you've got like rain on battering on the windows or you kind of re-wrapped in loads of blankets because it's cold. I feel like you need that atmosphere to set the scene.
sure. And then, oh God, yeah. I mean, films and the horror films growing up. I mean, I grew up in the '80s. I'm born in the '88, so I mean, it's mad to think that I was born, well, 37 years ago, on the year that Beetlejuice, the first Beetlejuice, was released. So I
Oh
grew up
God.
watching Beetlejuice, and I remember, I think being like 6 years old, and then when they find the handbook from the dead in the attic, and they draw the door out of chalk on the wall.
Hmm.
I basically did that in permanent marker on my parents' wall,
I bet your parents were thrilled.
but they weren't very happy. Um, and my dad used to convince me watching Wizard of Oz that he was used to point at one of the lollipop munchkin guys and used to say,
The
"Oh, Josh, that's
Lollipop Guild.
you." Yeah, and he used to point at one of them to say that was me, and I was like,
That's
"Dad,
my
but
favorite movie of all
don't remember
time.
doing it. I don't remember playing that. I don't remember being in that film." Yeah, and also family history. My great granddad, he was Howard Carter. So he was the archaeologist who discovered Tutankhamun.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
So my dad is being an antiques dealer and an auctioneer. The whole house was filled with these kind of ancient artifacts and fossilized dinosaur eggs and African tribal art and like
That is literally like the best claim to fame I've never met anybody who's related
Yeah.
to anybody of
good
that
one.
importance. That's mental.
A good one. So yeah, my whole house has been filled with anthropological artifacts, really,
Mm.
and that's inspired. It's just been in my family generation, and just it's just been a part of my world. So my whole bedroom is full of. I'm self-taught in taxidermy, and I've got a huge skull collection and my own like Wunderkammer
His own
Kammer.
mummy in the corner.
there's a few human skulls, and there's a few weird bits and pieces. But so yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know. And it's strange to think of what I would be doing, what I would be like if I didn't have this outlet, this creative outlet,
Mhm.
because it would
Yeah.
still be inside of me. I wouldn't know how to control it. So I
Yeah.
don't know. I've got the weird thinking that I would probably become a serial killer if I didn't have this
Well, it's a good job you're an actor.
express the way to express myself.
Otherwise, somebody would be making a movie about you rather than with you in it. It'd be like a
Well,
biopic while you were.
I've still got another 40 years to go, so we'll see.
Yeah, hopefully you won't go down that route. Hopefully, like guys, if you're out there and you're listening, give him jobs, keep him busy. Don't let him become a serial killer. Amazing. Annabella, tell me about well, quickly, because God, we're running out of time for part one already. Tell me about your film project or tell me what you can tell me.
About which, sorry.
Your film that you've just made.
Oh gosh, yeah. So The Death of Us is kind of it's my directorial debut. Me and Chris wrote it together. It's about a couple who go through a severely traumatic situation and have to kind of try recover from. But the film is filled with a lot of twists. There's a lot of like cult behavior to it. It's a bit of a mix of like Hereditary and Midsummer. I really wanted to shoot this differently. So I brought on Raf, who is a brilliant cinematographer, and wanted to shoot it more like a drama with all the cool tones. Because like I love horror, but I also like films that kind of do a genre mashup. So
Mhm.
it's shot like a drama with a lot of really intense visuals. There's a few moments in it where people have been like, which one of you thought that up? I'm like, joint decision. Definitely some baby moments in there. Um, but yeah, so that's where we're at with it. It's just currently rushing through post at the moment. We're trying to hit these festival deadlines. So my life is literally spent just on this film.
No.
I don't know what free time is anymore. So
Nobody
we'll
does
see,
when they
Leader.
do
Who
this.
knows?
So what kind of festival are you aiming to get ready for first?
So we're applying to quite a few, so I don't want to jinx it just
No.
because. But yeah, we're applying for quite a few big horror festivals.
Mhm.
Really hoping. Yeah, just it's fingers crossed on it. So that is the plan. Obviously I was really lucky to get Nicholas Vince in it,
Mhm.
who's fantastic. He's amazing. I love this man. Brilliant. I got Johnny Vivash in it as well, so that was
Mhm.
amazing. I've really been dying to work with him. But yeah, it's a whole big, amazing mess at the moment, but really happy with the film.
But it will
Just
all
trying to
come
cut off 10
together.
minutes. Yeah,
It will all
yeah.
come together. Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to give you all a 10-minute break now, and I'll see you back here shortly.
See you in a little bit.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Scream Princess podcast. Now we're really going to chat about fairy dust. So, Chad, going
Yes.
from going from the masks, you had the idea with the mask, you kind of Andy asked said about the film, you decided to make the film. How did you go from the concept of the masks to the story? Like, where did the story come from?
So, right, we did the masks. Andy saw the masks, said, write the script. And I wanted to do something different with this. I knew what the visually I wanted to do with it. And I knew that it was going to be sort of this dark fantasy story, because obviously the masks lend themselves to that.
Hmm.
But when it came to think about the themes and the story itself, right around that time, I got diagnosed with autism.
Right.
So that diagnosis really changed everything for me. And it made so much of what had happened in my life up to this point make sense.
Hmm.
And going forward make the sense. And so now I had this whole new lens in which to explore myself, my view of the world, how
Hmm.
I tell stories, why I tell stories. And Fairy Dust was the first project that made sense where I was like, okay, well let's do that with this. Let's create some characters and work with symbolism and exploration of what it means to be neurodivergent and how we're affected by that. And what it means to be sort of an outcast, which I think a lot of us horror people did grow up as an outcast. So it's a story about being an outcast. And then at the first, originally it was going to be about a fantasy based character boy who leaves his family's farm to go off and find adventure, and that felt just a little too simple, a little too basic, a little too stereotypical. And I said, well, first of all, let's switch it. Let's make her a girl. And then I was like, the idea of the concept of the boy king obviously was a really early concept. And I'm like, well, let's keep the boy king concept. And if we're going to keep the boy king concept, but have a female lead, well, now we can talk about being non-binary. We can talk about being trans. We can introduce, again, these are all identity
Mhm.
themes. What does it mean? Who are we to ourselves? Who are we to the world? Who are we to our families? And I think that as a neurodivergent, we ask those same questions.
Mhm.
And anytime, any kind of identity related stuff, we ask a lot of those questions. And for me, I felt like getting diagnosed was a good direction. It was okay, now I have the answer to some of my questions. And now I can explore that. And so for
Mhm.
Fairy Dust is all about the character of Saga trying to figure out who she is, where her place in the world is, and accepting herself and being her true self and not letting anybody else get in the way of that.
Okay, and obviously, like, but we're doing a podcast kind of before you made the film, because I don't want to give too much away. So it's kind of getting
Right.
just enough so people kind of know, what you're doing, and they want to kind of help the
Mhm.
crowdfund, then without kind of, ruining it for everybody. But how horror is the horror going to be? Is it? Would you say it's just horror, or I mean, it's obviously fantasy, it's fairies and these kind of ethereal creatures, or does it cross genres? Is it like a genre blend?
It's definitely a genre blend. I grew up in the 80s, 70s and 80s, and so films like Return to Oz, Labyrinth,
Terrifying.
Legend, those were huge touchstones in my
Mhm.
childhood and are very, hey, it's a child's fantasy story, and you watch that as a kid going, holy shit, this is terrifying,
Yeah,
right? Turn to Oz, like I grew up on Wizard of Oz, another like you,
yeah.
huge fan of Wizard of Oz,
Yeah.
and then seeing Return to Oz and just having my little brain explode.
Do you know, I can deal with the Wheelers, but it's
Yeah.
that bit with Mombi's head, all the heads, and they're like Dorothy Gale. And I used to have to switch off at that point. Like I sometimes I'd be watching it on my own. I don't know where my parents were. They must have been, my mum must have been doing something in another room with it. But I'd have to turn it off. I was like, I can't sit and watch this by myself.
It is. It's
It's
when you're a kid,
terrifying.
it's absolutely terrifying. And so that I had that in mind when I started. So I knew that those touchdowns were kind of where I'm going to start. But I'm a horror guy, and
Mm.
so I couldn't help but as I'm writing it,
Hmm.
really there's some really terrifying moments in the film. And one scene in particular, which I won't spoil for anybody,
Yeah.
but it definitely is really it's horror. There's a lot of horror. So I originally started calling this a dark fantasy film. Now I call it a fantasy horror film because it is really is in my
Yeah.
mind equal parts fantasy and horror.
Amazing. Amazing. Because I'm like a horror girl, but I do love fantasy. And if you can kind of combine them, it's like
Yeah.
a dream. And how was the casting process for you?
So the a lot of people say, hey, don't cast online. Don't just go online and cast. Go through an agency or go through the correct way. And me being me, I was like, yeah, okay, cool. So I'm gonna go online and post a casting. And obviously Andy Edwards is involved, and so he had some guidance. He knew some people. Uh, he introduced me to a couple of people. He had just finished Rumpelstiltskin, so
Hmm.
obviously whole cast of actors that he just worked with in recent months. And so when it came time to cast, and we put out this sort of first initial calls, we found Zoe Villiers was our lead for
Hmm.
Saga, and Sam Todd came in as Barlow, and they're both real new to the industry. I
Hmm.
mean, they've been acting their whole lives, but they're both young. They're both fairly new features. But then as we moved through and started looking at the villains and some of the co-characters, and he's like, well, we should talk to Joss. Joss is an amazing,
Hmm.
amazing character actor and would be hugely beneficial to this. And Annabella and I had already started talking, and I was like, you would make the great voice of this character, Miss Beatrix. And then it was like,
Hmm.
well, no, you would just be great as Miss Beatrix. Come be
Right.
her and be the voice.
Hmm.
No, Aviana Snow, she was probably the last one we've cast before the next round of
Hmm.
announcement to make. And I saw her again through Andy's stuff and was
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, I have exactly the character I want to make
I
her."
think she really
Uh,
has an ethereal quality. I think because she's so tall and she's so she's like, I can really see her in things like Lord of the Rings, or like as like an elvish kind of character, or she's like a
Yeah.
kind of ethereal Nicole Kidman. That's how I describe her.
You
And we have, of course, she's exactly that, and we
Yeah.
have completely cast her in the opposite direction.
Have you? That's
Yes,
really fun to
yes.
know.
There is nothing ethereal or welcoming or anything with her. She's definitely one of our
But
several
that's a
actually.
great thing for an actress to be cast as something that's completely different, because people see you as one thing and you will keep getting cast as that. And it's great because you get work, so nobody really minds being typecast because it means they're working. But you get to that point where you're like, okay, it's just the same thing again and again. So it's great to kind of give her something to really sink her teeth into.
Something very different. Yes, absolutely. And I can't wait. We've had a chat recently, and I'm so excited. I mean, everybody on our cast is amazing. We have Josephine McAdam, who was in Scare Package. And the Mortuary Collection. And she actually, I met her on Blue Sky of all places. And she wasn't auditioning necessarily for Fairy Dust. She just, hey, I exist. I saw
Right.
your stuff. I like what you're doing. If you're ever doing anything that you need an
Yeah.
actress for, keep me in mind. And I said, well, as it turns out, I'm right in the middle of casting this film.
Yeah.
And you should absolutely come in and audition for our Fey princess, our fairy tale princess that has to be rescued. And she killed it. She's
Amazing.
awesome.
So am I right in thinking like most of the characters are masked? So there's not
Yes.
you have so who's masked and who's not masked out of the in
Saga
and
and Barlow, so Zoe and Sam are our two leads, are unmasked.
right.
Everybody else in the film, so it's we have on a real world, we have a fantasy world. In the real world, everybody looks like people.
Okay,
In
so
the
right,
fantasy world, other than Zoe and Sam's characters, everybody's masked.
that's really
So
fun.
that's yeah, it's and
Amazing.
purposely masked. It's not that we're trying to, hey, wear a mask to emulate that's what you look like. Is literally like Miss Beatrix is a rabbit, so she wears a rabbit mask, but it is a literal mask in the film.
Did you name
So
her that then with the Beatrix Potter Peter Rabbit kind of link?
why that's exactly what I named her for.
That's really
Absolutely.
cute. I can see you being a character called Miss Beatrix or Annabella. You have like a Miss Beatrix look to you.
I am very excited.
So what was it then that had you hooked with the character?
To be fair, I think I would have played anything you asked me to play in that. Had you been like, "Can you be a tree in the background?" I would be like, "Yes, cool. I'm down for it." I don't want to spoil much.
Yeah.
It's an interesting character, and also I think as well, I'm quite an aesthetic based person, so I love like the way stuff looks in films. And I saw this mask, and yes, very excited to play it. Um, yeah, yeah,
And what
that's
can you
kind
tell us about your character, Joss? That's not going to give too much away.
I'm on the block. Yeah, so he's like the main character that I'm playing, and he is, I guess, the Fey hunter. He's the one sent off to roam the land of Husk by his master to basically eradicate all of the Fey from existence to fulfill the
You're the
prophecy.
baddie.
I'm the baddie, yeah. So
Yes.
and then I play. Chad's thankfully cast me for two little kind of cameo, little character roles,
Oh,
small little snippets and scenes throughout. So I get to I get to tinker around with different ideas.
that's fun. And you'll
Um,
look completely different in them as these other roles, so people won't know it's
yeah,
you.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, same as Annabelle, visually striking. I don't know how I remember when or where I saw Chad's initial kind of concept footage.
Mm.
I guess it must have been through Andy posting it on
Mm.
online and stuff. But as soon as I saw that, it was just stunning, absolutely breathtaking. And with the masks, obviously we're used to with prosthetics and skin work and mask work, um, but because they're full face masks and there's no expression from the face, um, to be able to use the body
Mm.
language and with all my kind of contemporary kind of avant-garde skills
Yeah,
and stuff, to be able to put that into the body, um, yeah, it's going to be a dream to kind of explore. Really, it's going to be a surreal kind of. So yeah, I'm super
amazing.
excited.
So you've been crowdfunding this, and obviously I've kind of touched very briefly on crowdfunding with Annabella about, she was crowdfunding on her last project, and you've been crowdfunding this. So how is it going so far?
It's going great. It is a full-time job. I think
Yes.
anybody who's ever done a crowdfunding campaign will tell you, by the way, is you will devote every waking hour that you have to this
Yeah.
this game. We spent probably 3 months preparing the campaign. We shot some additional footage for it. I designed the whole thing and mistakenly thought, okay, no, we're prepared. Like we've done so much pre-work. It
Mhm,
won't be a full-time job once we launch. Like I can
mhm.
just check in on. No, no. It we launched it. It did gangbusters that first week, as all good crowdfunders do. But yeah, it's just you have to stay on top of it. We're generating new content, new perks, finding
Uh-huh.
different ways and different things that are interesting to people. We've got some new casting announcements coming up,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's its own thing, man. It's wild.
Yeah, it does take a long time. Like, I've only ever done it on a very small scale for some short films, and then I've kind of whatever I've ended up with, I'm like, right, I'll work with that. But obviously, when you've got a feature film, you kind of and you've got a bigger cast, and you've got props, and you've got locations and everything. You
Yeah.
do kind of need to kind of hit your targets. How long have you got left?
We have got 3 weeks left.
3 weeks left. So this will
There
definitely
will
go
be,
out then while it's still going. So what kind of
yeah.
perks can people expect?
Well, we've got a lot of traditional perks, things that if you're familiar with crowdfunding, we've done that same, but some of the more unique ones, because there are so many masked characters, and we're talking 30 plus masks in this
Mhm.
film, we've got a perk where you can name one of the masked characters. A couple of people have already signed up for that, so I'm really excited and kind of nervous to see what names they come
Oh,
up
what
with.
if they give
How
you a
to.
name that is like you really don't want, like like a mask face? Like, what are you gonna do?
Well, if Masky McMaskface shows up in the film, then there he is. Yeah, it's I'm hoping both of the people who so far have collected that perk will be true to the film.
Do you know these people, or are these complete
I
strangers?
know I do actually,
Oh,
yeah.
you
I
do.
know
Okay,
both
so
of
you
them.
can feel a
One
little
of them
bit
well, one of them
less
peripheral. So
less nervous. Because I
um
always find it surprising, like when you do a crowdfund, you do think it will mostly be people that you've got some link to. But I've had
mhm.
complete strangers that have just seen it,
Yeah,
and just,
absolutely.
they just wanted one of those perks, and you think, wow, that's amazing that someone's, found it, and then they've kind of put their faith in
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, I would say probably 90% of the people that have signed up so far, I don't know them. I don't know where they found us. I don't know how they found us. I'm happy they found us. Uh,
Yeah.
but they're signing up for all kinds of stuff. We just launched a new perk for Pride Month.
Hmm.
Since it's a film about a trans character, it made sense, of course, and we had quite a few people from the community involved in the project.
Hmm.
So it made sense that we would donate some of this
Hmm.
to Switchboard. And so to do that, we've created a new perk where, of course, they get the copy of the film, like the other perk that it's based on. But we take 25% of the donation and send it on to Switchboard for their charity.
Right.
So that's a brand new perk that just launched this month that we're really excited about and trying to get out there and get people to know it
Yeah.
exists.
Amazing. So, because it is kind of a fantasy film, we've obviously talked about, you filming outside with the mask. Is it going to be mostly shot outside on location?
Half and half, half and
Haven't.
half. Yeah, there's
Because I'm
a
like,
lot.
what's your, backup? Because if you're shooting in the UK, then you're going to have issues with weather.
We're gonna have a lot of wet people.
Yes. Wet, sodden fairies.
We have a quick shooting schedule. It's 12 days.
Hmm.
Which seems to be the average for this type of film, but we're
Hmm.
doing 6 days out in the forest and some other locations around the UK, and then 6 days in a studio
Right.
for sets that we're building for that.
Okay. Amazing.
Yeah.
When does the shoot start?
Right now we're looking at the end of September.
Right. Okay. So while the weather's still okay.
Sort of okay.
I feel like summers have got a bit later though, so I think you might be lucky because I know, like, at the moment I'm in the northeast, but it's literally rain, and I've looked at, you look at your phone at the weather forecast,
Yeah.
and every day for the whole of as far as it goes is rain, and I'm like, I can't go on hikes. I'm stuck indoors, like, which is good for, getting stuff done, but not good for,
Right.
you know, being
No, you just
outside. But I do think, like,
face the elements.
yeah, you do have to. I mean, yeah, I know I shouldn't be a fair weather hiker, but I feel like kind of summer's getting later, and it feels like it's lasting long because I feel like we're having like warm Octobers. So if you're shooting September, that's probably quite a nice time.
Fingers crossed. Fingers
Fingers
crossed.
crossed for you. Let me see if we've got any other questions here. Um, Joss. How have you been preparing for the character? Like we've already touched again on, you said there's only so much you could do without, being with everyone and
Well, it's a slow process. It's a slow run of just reading the script and then just kind of putting it down, sitting with it, bringing it back, remembering things,
hmm
forgetting, remembering things, and trying to link all the bits and pieces together.
yeah,
I asked Chad to see if he can send me a couple of masks in the post. So
right.
hopefully they can arrive so I can just start exploring
Are you just
basically.
like in the mirror, like dancing with the masks on? Is that what it's going to
Yeah,
be?
so basically, so I'm sat in my studio, my dance studio.
Ah,
So I've
amazing.
got, I've got lots of space, lots of
Mm,
mirrors to kind of to train in and practice in.
yeah.
And yeah, my social feeds are inundated with waterfalls and amazing locations because I've just basically been screenshotting them
I'm gonna have to
and
follow you and like check out your
added
locations.
to yeah, hopefully one day I find the time to compile them all together and I can send them off to Chad and Andy just to be like, oh, there's this amazing place in Wales and this and this
Yeah,
and this and this and this
yeah.
and this. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, there's some incredible locations. I'm not sure what their plan is or where they're planning
Mm,
to to what places the landscape to use in the UK, but
mm,
there is some incredible stunning
yeah.
places.
I learned this in lockdown. So I was not a hiker before lockdown. And then my friends and I, we all lived in different places. I was in London, so it was like I'm in a city and you kind of stuck. And they were like, well, when we went out to meet outside, let's just like get in our cars and meet somewhere in the middle. So we'd be like do Surrey or we'd do like the South Downs or something. And then I just suddenly became a hiker. So it all literally started out of lockdown, which was like obviously a terrible time for lots of people. But for me, I was like, it's inspired like my whole, everything's happened since then, really. Um,
Yeah,
like,
and then I guess hopefully then in that time between, if I were to receive the mask and then along that to develop the character in the studio, and then I love basically just getting out and immersing myself
yeah.
in nature, just to kind of whether it's like just filming for reference footage,
Mm.
or yeah, just really. I mean, people call it method acting. I'm not. I mean, call it what you want, but
Yeah, I mean, you can't really be a,
no, I'm
fairy
going to try to
hunter.
be as real as possible for myself, just to prepare myself really for all eventualities, and
Yeah.
to know, as soon as 12 days of shooting. I mean, me, myself, and Annabelle have met before. I met Sam and um, Josephine, Zoe, the casting audition at my place.
Mhm.
We hosted the audition, but then obviously and Ariana, but it's all last minute, and then it's trying to do again self preparation as much as possible
Yeah.
to just to prepare for all eventualities.
I have a
Mm.
feeling that Johnson's gonna scare the shit
All
out.
as good
So
as possible.
Yeah. Are you going to be terrifying?
I think he will be. I
You
think
think
he
you
Well,
will
we'll
be?
find out.
And Annabella, do you have any like rituals and practices that you kind of put into play when it comes to getting ready to play a character?
Yeah, so with one like this where it's a bit more kind of, I guess, movement and like we don't have the facial expressions, what I'm going to
Mhm.
do once Chad is free and off this, because I know how hard it is running one of these. There is no free time. I'll probably chuck a few different voices and ideas your way. And if you kind of go, yeah, we go down that way, I'll develop something around the voice and the characteristics of the voice. And then we'll move on to the movement. And then I'll probably try to figure out the costume. Because I think younger me had learned the hard way that sometimes you go, I'm going to do all this stuff, and then sometimes you don't have that
Yeah.
ability and said costumes. So then I'll just base it around that and make this whole little identity. It's an interesting one because I haven't done like mask work for quite a long time. So I was originally a similar background to Joss, but I was musical theatre, so did a lot of like
Mhm.
ballet dance training. So I haven't done that for a while. So I'm really looking forward to bringing that into it and
Mhm.
making this little interesting, wonderful character.
Amazing.
And I
Well,
think one of the great things is because Chad's already filmed these concept shots when in lockdown, which was the inspiration for him to then like build this whole world and this whole feature.
mhm.
Mm.
So the fact that there's already something tangible and already exists
Yeah.
Yeah.
to give it weight. So it's not like you're stepping into something that you're just reading off a sheet and a script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've already got visuals to kind of
Yeah,
like set the
it's kind of
scene.
like to know that okay, so this is what we're getting ourselves in for, and this is what we're going to expect, and
Hmm.
that is such a kind of a relief, I guess, as a performer, or something that as a being employed or cast or in the right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously the concept, the art that I've seen so far, like the poster and the picture on the crowdfund, it does look very sinister. But it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's definitely you're like I can imagine the kind of film when you see something, imagine the kind of film that you're expecting to see from seeing that poster. So
Yeah.
it's very exciting. And then how quickly, once you've shot it, are you expecting to get the whole edit process? Are you going to be aiming for festivals next year, or
I
what's the
think
plan?
festivals probably 2027, I'd
Right.
imagine. The post can take 3 months, it could take 9 months. It
Hmm.
really depends on how things come together. The goal, of course, get it done as quick as possible, get it out
Yeah,
to market.
but
Uh,
also make a good film and don't rush it to,
exactly, exactly.
yeah.
But we'll
She's
see.
at Zoomies times, like beginning. Can you tell? I'm like doing this, trying to get her to calm down, but she's like, no, got seagulls outside and they're nesting, and like the cats are being driven to distraction. Well, thank you all so much for giving us some time on your Sunday. I'm really, really excited to kind of see this project once it all comes together. Like, it sounds amazing. And obviously, I've heard, snippets from so many different people now about it that it's all very exciting. Has anyone else got anything else they want to plug?
I'm currently working on a film called Desolation Heart. It's a new short. We
Hmm.
start shooting this weekend, so that'll
Amazing.
be available probably early next year for people to see at festivals.
Great.
Yeah.
Annabelle? Oh,
Rumpelstiltskin has been nominated for National Film Awards in the UK
oh, that's
for
amazing.
best thriller and for best producers. So for Andy and Becky who
Hmm.
produced. So I think voting closes on the 19th of June. So yeah, please vote for us. Fingers crossed we'll win. And then yeah, I guess I've just released my exorcism creature workshop performance workshop training. So if
Ah,
anybody wants to, it's still in the slow process of development. Again, there's too many utensils and only one chef at the moment. So
right.
it's in a slow process, but yeah, and
Where's that
that's.
based? Is that like people will come to you, you're going to host workshops, or you can do it online?
Yeah, so basically, it would be in person. I did it. The first open public one I did was 2 weeks ago in my studio here,
Hmm.
and then on the second day we went to Avenue Park Cemetery in Stoke Newington for a couple of hours, and
Right.
basically shot some creature footage in there so they can use it for their show reels and stuff.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's really cool.
there's a lot. It's a slow burner. There's way too much at the moment. I think I've set myself way too bigger of an idea. But the dream is to kind of have like a full creature training, training kind of professional
Yeah,
development,
that's a really cool idea.
and then
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
feature production company from that as well.
amazing. Annabella?
Oh, I guess my plug-in is I'm still here. I'm very quiet on social media at the moment, but we're really getting fast. We've got our picture lock about to set into place, and we're down with our sound guy. Um, Next week, doing a load of Foley and everything. So we are hoping to start our festival run from September, October,
Mm.
and I'm really excited to get this little project out. Yeah. So if anyone needs a director for the project at any point, hi.